It's my first day at my new job as a product manager in consulting, so product management consultant. And I come in, like, I get up in the morning and I feel like I have to do this entire morning routine to be doing well. I've actually been prepping myself mentally and emotionally to go back to a job in a company because I've been an entrepreneur for 2.5 years. So working on my own schedule, waking up whenever I want, being the only one, driving the direction of what I want to do. But this is even more special because when I was 23 years old, I burnt out as a junior consultant in a product agency, product development agency. And so I have never thought I would go back in that industry. Like, never in a million years you would have told me, even a year ago, you would go back in consulting. I would say, are you nuts? Like, this is where I'm burnt out. But this morning, as I get ready to start that new job, I feel like so much has changed over the years that I am ready to do it. I have, since that moment I burnt out, so 10 years ago, I've gone on a true journey of self-discovery and evolution and growth, which, as you probably know, if you're here, is a never-ending story, right? I will continue to grow, and things I might be sharing today might be different in like a month, 3 months, a year. But the point of this is I feel ready. I think the main thing is I have stopped seeing success in work and feeling successful only when I reach goals. When I burnt out the first time around, all that mattered to me was ticking everything on my to-do list, every single task, taking them as fast as possible. And I would never be satisfied with myself until I actually reached a goal. But once I reached that goal, like for instance, preparing for a conference for a month with a lot of speakers, hundreds of people in the audience, and then really tiring myself and burning myself out throughout the process, really, for it to be the day of not even enjoying the success of it all, not even enjoying participants, being happy with it, simply because I was so done with it. I was not even able to enjoy the objective. And I think this is one of the things that I've really learned, is that as much as I like taking a task on my to-do list, I use to-do-list software, and so when I tick it, there's like a sound, and how rewarding as that is. If this is the only thing that satisfies me about my job, then it is a recipe for burnout, as I've loved. So I've really learned to enjoy the process in the tasks. Of course, all tasks aren't created equal, and sometimes I really don't want to do something. Like, I really have to drag myself to do it. But most of the time, let's say 80% of the time, I find joy in the process, whether it's learning something new, whether it's getting better at my craft, whether it's the people I get to collaborate on with for this specific task. I am really trying to enjoy the process so that I don't get like that really short-lived reward of having done a good job that doesn't even last that long, and like I said, that doesn't even feel like a reward when you've spent a month tiring yourself out. So I think that's the first thing that makes me confident going into it. The second thing is that I have stopped tying my worth to my job, and this is I feel like, even though I've stopped doing it, it's something I'm gonna have to keep practicing, because I used to not feel like I was worthy as a human being. If I would rest, if I would do nothing, I would actually look down on people who managed to rest, or who didn't have a drive for a big career, and who didn't want more out of life. And now I understand, and I realize maybe they have a better understanding of life than I do. I mean, I was 23 years old, so that might definitely be the case. But I think the other thing is, I've realized how important rest is, and that it's not something you have to earn. It's something that is a given as human beings. Like, I love when, people talk about how nature has winter and even the trees have to rest. Well, that's the same thing. We're humans, we're not robots. As much as our modern industry has adapted to all of this, the reality is we're still humans, we still have phases, we still have rhythms. Women, we still have our cycles when we are, we still have our cycles, and we still have moments during our cycles where we are less energized, more tired, and where we need more rest. So I think this has been a big thing, and when I tie this to worth, that's because I always felt like I needed to be worthy of rest. But to be honest, I always felt like I needed to prove something to be worthy. I always needed to do more. I was never satisfied with myself. And I think that never being satisfied was really hard as well, because what I have learned is you can grow while being content and satisfied where you are today. Before, I needed to be dissatisfied, I needed to be disgusted with my life. I really needed to have all those harsh emotions, drive me to actually make change and grow. And it's not sustainable at all. Like, I feel much better now where I'm content and happy with my life as it is. There are things I want to do differently that I am working on, but not having these future achievements and these future desires being real in my life does not take away from me actually enjoying and loving my life today. And I think that is a big thing. And around worth, another topic is learning to love myself, right? Because for a long time, it feels a bit shameful to say this, but I didn't love myself. I don't even think I knew what that means. And even now that I know what it means, I can feel where there are moments in my life when I am more strained and more stressed, that I am harder on myself. That is harder for me to love and nurture and care for myself. But I think this was very important, because when your level of self-love is very low, you're gonna look for it everywhere in your life. And in my case, I looked for it, and when I say everywhere in your life, it's everywhere where you see an opportunity, right? To be rewarded, to be recognized for who you are, for what you bring to the table. Because even saying that, for who you are, like, I feel like a lot of time where I was recognized for what I brought to the table, for the value I added, who I was in that moment didn't actually feel true to who I am really. And so it also felt like I was rewarded for playing a role. But it didn't matter at the time. All that mattered was that I was rewarded. And so I would look for recognition in my managers. And maybe I looked in that recognition for the recognition that I would have liked in, my parents growing up, or at least one of my parents. And I think that is truly very unhealthy, because, and I'm not saying like, even whenever you're looking for recognition outside of yourself, whether it's a manager, whether it's family, I don't think it's super healthy in any cases, because then you sometimes overlook toxic behaviors. In my case, I am thinking about a manager who I felt I didn't have any sense of psychological safety with that person. And I think the environment they had created for me was very toxic. And it didn't matter, because I so wanted to impress them. I so wanted to do good by them. I so wanted to be recognized by them, that I literally got myself sick to make that happen. And obviously I didn't make it happen. I realized that way too late. But I think going into that new job, I am really realizing that I want a mentor relationship with my manager, and I want them to be able to support me and to grow. But I don't want to be completely tied to their lips and to what they think about me. And I definitely do not want to only feel like I am worthy as a human being if they recognize me and are happy with my work. Even when I talk through this, like, it's still hard to say why I develop those type of mechanisms, but I definitely know those are things I don't want to do anymore. And so those are a couple of things where I feel really ready to go back into consulting. I think another one is that I have realized that life is bigger than work. No, I'm not sure, but it's definitely bigger than work. I think when I was 23 years old, my entire life was working, was doing things. That was all I was doing. That was the only moment in which I felt useful, and that is what I thought life was, just working all of the time, only being dedicated to working and doing nothing else. And so I think all of those things are definitely things that have changed now, where I've realized that work is part of something bigger, of a bigger life or a bigger purpose. Like, I've actually learned to see the work experiences that I live through as how do they fit into my purposes, my vision for my life? How do they fit into something that is bigger? Because the life I am building outside of work, like my relationship with my partner, the house we have, the friendships, I want all of this to be there with me for a very long time, if not for my entire life. So potentially for 70 years, 80 years, 90 years more. And I work as much as I really love work, and I see myself being there for the next few years. I'm still not always going to be there. And then later on, I will want a family, I will want kids, and they're going to be in my life forever. Whereas that specific work won't be in my life forever. I mean, even when you spend, let's say, like you spend your entire life working in the same company. So let's say from 25 years old to 65 years old, it's 40 years, right? And if you live to be 90 or 80 years old, like, that's just half of your life. That's not even your entire life. So this is what I really realized. And I think when I was younger, having my life having been a lot about school, and then having been about studies, and then about work, it just felt normal, and that's what life was. But it's actually not. And that's really one thing I've realized. I've also learned to be really not happy with failing, but happy with the learning and experimenting, and understanding that when I make mistake, when I realize I'm wrong about something, it's an opportunity to learn. I really find enjoyment and satisfaction in learning. I think as long as I'm learning new things, I'm happy, and there's definitely no bigger learning curve than when you start a new job, or when you go through something difficult, or when you make a huge mistake, or when you fail. So I don't want to be failing all of the time, but that has helped me to learn to really love experimenting and trying new things. And so as I start that new job today, I am excited. It also feels like a full circle moment that I never saw coming. I never thought consulting would be for me. And the reason I decided that I was going to go back, actually, is being an entrepreneur, is realizing how much I loved working with different clients on different topics. And I was kind of scared going back into a company where I always worked with the same people on the same software. I was kind of scared on the same topics. I was scared that I would just get bored. And to be honest, like, that has happened in the past, where I usually evolve every 1 year, 1.5 years. Like, I change roles somehow, or like evolve a little bit in the company, because I just get a little bored to be fair. And I just want to see new things. And so consulting felt like, wait, this is actually a good thing. And when I first saw the offer and reconsidered it, I was like, this is actually perfect for who I am today. The culture of the company fits my values, my needs, what I desire. The role, I want to go back into product management, and the consulting aspect is really good. It is very good continuity after having been an entrepreneur. And so I really asked myself, do I want to go back in that environment, in an industry where I know I've burnt out in the past? And it felt like a resounding yes. It felt like I was ready for it. It felt like I would be more careful and try to become aware if it was in the right place for me. And turns out my manager is the same, like, he's also, here and ensuring this is a good environment for me. And I also realized after some past experiences that if it wasn't a good environment for me, then that's okay. That's okay. Before I would have been like, no, it really needs to work. I need to show what I can do. If I don't fit in, then it says something bad about me. Now I don't tell myself that anymore. Obviously, there would probably be a lot of emotions around my pride being hurt and ego-wise, and maybe a little sadness as well. I don't know. I'm trying not to think about that, but there's definitely would not be the sense that I am a failure and I am unworthy because I didn't fit in one company. Because that's okay. There are a ton of companies, and I'm lucky enough that I've also gotten to work in great companies with amazing cultures, and where I decided to leave because I felt like I needed to see something else, but I didn't leave because of the people. I didn't leave because of the culture, and that has made me really understand the concept of there is a place for everyone. And when you don't fit in, where you don't feel good in a specific place, it doesn't mean that you are the problem. It just means that or you've outgrown this place, or it's just not the place for you anymore, and that is okay. So I think as well, I've just generally stopped putting so much weight into work. Work is very important to me. It's important to all of us. It's what puts food on the table. It's what allows us to pay for our mortgages, our rents. And it is also a place where we spend most of our time during the week. And so I want it for myself to be fulfilling. I want it to be enjoyable. I want to have fun and feel challenged and grow when I'm at work. I want to connect with my colleagues, but it's also not everything in my life anymore. And that is very important, I think, to gain some perspective on that. So this is why I'm going back into consulting. If you're interested to see how it is in 3-6 months, subscribe. I'll share more about how it's going. But I'm really excited to try this again. It feels like a full circle moment, and it also reminds me that when you feel that something is good for you, even if it hasn't worked in the past, then don't let fear stop you from trying it. Don't let fear stop you from experimenting and from living your life, because you could really have the greatest surprise on the other side, or you could have the greatest disappointment, but that's okay. You would learn. But it could also be an amazing surprise. Life also lives on the other side of fear. So I hope this video was useful, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here tomorrow. Bye!